Okay, so to kick off this launch pay-per-click section, we're going to start off by really diving into the methodology about how I think about launch pay-per-click, how we structure and target keywords, and really kind of plant the seeds for what we're going to spill into in future sections in terms of the campaigns we're actually going to set up. So really the purpose of this video is to understand how to select and prioritize keywords for launch pay-per-click campaigns. So a couple kind of things we'll go over just to kind of set the methodology. First, the underlying foundational goal, in my view, of launch pay-per-click for a new ASIN on Amazon is ultimately to send those signals to the Amazon algorithm that will both index your product for the keywords that matter and then ultimately organically rank your product for the keywords that matter. That's all we want to do. It doesn't need to be fancy. We don't have to have tons of campaigns. We don't need to be running all these different ad types. All we want to do are to send those signals to index and to rank. We'll get fancier with pay-per-click after that launch phase takes place over the first month, and we'll start to integrate more sophisticated strategies and things like that. All we're doing here is just kind of identifying those keywords that matter and working with pay-per-click as a tool to both index and rank them. And remember, operative word is it's a tool. That's all it is. So a couple more things just to keep in mind. First of all, what we want to tell Amazon through these launch pay-per-click efforts and how we've structured the keywords in our listing and structured everything in the previous module is to really help Amazon understand what is your product. And ultimately, we want to be seen as similar to those other successful and relevant ASINs that are in the space. And to do that, we've got to structure our keywords and our campaigns in a way that we start to get correlated from a relevant standpoint to those other successful ASINs. Also, we want to tell Amazon that we're relevant. That's what their algorithm is trying to figure out. It's trying to figure out, especially for these new products that come on board, what are they relevant for? What search terms and customers should we be showing this particular ASIN to in search and in pay-per-click advertising, such that we're presenting the right offers to the right customers at the right moment in time for the right keywords. This is difficult for Amazon when there's new ASINs because there's really a limited amount of information. So we're trying to send those signals on the right keywords with good click-through rate, good on-page performance, so people are actually looking at the listing after they click on an ad. They're adding to cart, and ultimately they're actually purchasing the product. Those are ways that we can tell Amazon through pay-per-click keywords that our product is relevant for certain search terms that we want to be ranked well for and we want to be indexed for. And then we do not want to bid on keywords that we can't send the right signals on, at least right now. So if we start spending money on pay-per-click and we're not getting click-through rates, we're not getting conversions, we're not getting the on-page behavior, because there's no other data for Amazon to go on, they're going to think that your ASIN, this new ASIN, is not relevant for this keyword. They're going to punitively reduce your organic rank potential, and they're not going to show your ads in the right position, and they're going to increase your costs on bids to even serve up on those platforms. A lot of times there's keywords that you may just not hit right away for whatever reason, and you can integrate those later on after you've got reviews and other things. So we're going to pay very close attention that we do not want to bid on keywords and continue to dump money into pay-per-click on keywords that are not sending the appropriate signals to Amazon. And we'll get into this later on in terms of bid management and how we manage some of those bids at launch. But this is what's super important, to focus only on the keywords that matter and only on relevant keywords when you're launching a product initially. And then finally, just recognize that poor pay-per-click performance can impact rank on keywords we care about. Again, if you have poor conversion, if you have poor click-through rate, if you're sending signals that show Amazon that this product may not be relevant for this search term and for this customer, that could punitively impact our ability to scale up that organic rank during the honeymoon period. So again, this is why we don't need to worry about certain words at this stage, and or we need to closely monitor bids and performance such that we're not serving pay-per-click on keywords that are sending the improper signals to Amazon during the launch phase. So really, it's these first 14 days in particular for these initial pay-per-click campaigns that are the most critical for indexing and determining your product's relevance. So here's how we're going to think about and structure our initial keywords in terms of how we're going to target them with pay-per-click at launch for a product. We're going to jump over to the keyword dominator list so you can kind of see this in action. But generally speaking, there's kind of 4 structured keywords that we want to kind of identify before we build out our initial pay-per-click launch campaigns. First is your priority ones, right? These are the ones that are super, super relevant. They explicitly describe your product, and other competitors and or alpha ASINs and or brand analytics data has identified them as words that matter for a particular category. So these are high relevance, and generally speaking, what we're going to do with these ones, we're going to segment them out to greater than 1,000 searches per month. And we're going to put those into single keyword campaigns. Again, we'll get to this in another video. And less than 1,000, we're also going to target with exact match terms, and we're going to do that in a batch methodology. The second is a priority 2s, which are kind of relevant, but not super relevant. And those ones we can basically batch into larger exact campaigns based on volume. The final 2 are also relevant search terms. The first is branded, so it's where it's a branded explicit descriptor of your product, but it's using another company's brand. We can jump on some of those that are hyper relevant and have the right search volume and batch those into exact campaigns. And then there's the competitive ASIN product targeting, where basically we serve up ads on a competitor's listing page. And that's where we're going to take the top 10 to 20 successful ASINs in the space, especially those that we think we've got a better offer than, and we're going to serve up some ads on those. So we keep it simple, right? Those are the 4 structured kind of keyword batches and tranches that we want to identify. We'll get into more of the nuances of campaigns and other things in the pay-per-click masterclass. So you'll probably want to campaign in this effort with that. But wanted to at least start off by thinking about how we structure our initial keyword tranches for Amazon launch campaigns. Okay, so I've jumped back over to the keyword dominator, keyword research that we've conducted here in this hypothetical situation. Again, we wouldn't have our ASIN in this particular case because it's a new product. So in this case, we're probably just looking at those 2 or 3 alpha ASINs in the space when we construct this. But generally speaking, what you want to do is you want to take your targeted keyword list after implementing all those strategies we talked about in the keyword dominator module, where we kind of honed in on these keywords, and we want to actually rank the priority. So we've already done that here. Again, priority 1s are those that explicitly describe your product. This is something that without a whole lot of guesswork, thinking from a customer's perspective, you can be like, yeah, if they type this in, my product is something that they would want. Those are priority number 1s. Priority 2s and 3s are those that are a little bit more fringe. And then the B1s, which we categorize, are basically branded search terms that may be relevant for our product, but just include a brand term that we can actually include in our listing. So what we're going to do here with this effort is to really tranche these keywords and figure out how we're going to structure them into our launch campaigns. So what I've basically done here, and what I typically do when I'm launching a product, is I'll just add a tab manually here to the keyword dominator assessment that I've done. And then that's where I'm going to kind of port over all these keywords and chop them up so that I can ultimately turn them into launch pay-per-click campaigns. So the first and most important is really to look at those priority 1 keywords and really kind of determine based on volume how we're going to treat them. So what I basically do here to start out is I would just come over here to priority, and I would deselect all of the other kind of rankings, and I would basically just sort only by priority 1s. And then I'll typically go search frequency rank because we know that that's data from Amazon. I'll sort that A to Z, and that typically will correlate to Helium 10 search volume as well. And what this basically gives me is it gives me a rank ordered list of priority 1 high relevance keywords kind of ranked by lowest search frequency rank or highest monthly search volume. That's going to help me determine if I'm going to treat these into single keyword target campaigns or if I'm going to tranche them into exact match batches. So all I'm going to do here is basically take these first 4 columns here. I'm going to drag it down, and I'm just going to copy these terms over into my launch pay-per-click tab. Okay, so now that that's done, I basically want to just add a couple columns here. So I just kind of do this here. This one is going to be just priority. And then this next one is going to be campaign type. And we'll get into that here in a second. So this is basically all priority 1. So we can kind of take that sucker there, drag that down, and we're in business. So the first thing that we're going to want to do, and that is part of my methodology, is any search term that has over 1,000 estimated searches per month and is a priority one based on our selection, I want to ultimately target that with single keyword exact campaigns. What this basically means is it's one campaign for one keyword, and we set an individual budget spend per day for each one of those keywords. Why we do that into single keyword campaigns, if I've got say 10 or 20 keywords in a particular campaign, the Amazon algorithm, especially when it's a brand new launched product, is going to basically dedicate that budget to the keywords that are getting the most performance. So let's say early on you put in 20 keywords into a campaign. One of them starts to get really good click-through rate data, and maybe you get a sale from one of them. Amazon's going to think, hey, that's a keyword that this ASIN and these campaigns really perform well on. Let's take that $20 a day budget or $100 a day budget or whatever it is for that campaign, and let's dedicate a large proportion of it to that keyword because that's the one that's performing well. That will help us optimize this daily budget that we've got. The problem with that is there might be 18 or 19 other keywords that you would actually perform really well on as well, or maybe even better on, and we may even want to rank better on those words because there might be better volume, but Amazon's dedicated that budget and it's not really seeing clicks on those other keywords that matter, so we don't get the indexing with the same speed that we want, and we certainly don't get the organic ranking on those keywords that are neglected with the same amount that we want. So single keyword campaigns take all the guesswork out of the algorithm's hands, and we're basically telling Amazon with a dedicated budget 1-to-1 for each keyword that is a priority one greater than 1,000 volume that we want to spend money on this every single day, and we want to get ads, clicks, and ultimately sales on these keywords, and we don't want you to throttle it and push it to other keywords. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through here, and anything that's over a search volume of 1,000 per month, I'm just going to do SKC, which stands for single keyword campaign, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag that down. You could even include some of these ones here that are close to 1,000 if you want. If you've got a niche that is not super big, you might even go down to 500. But generally speaking, I want to have like 10 to 20 keywords that are single keyword exact campaigns when I'm launching a product. These are the keywords that matter the most, that carry the most volume, and that have the most sales potential for your particular product. So I'd kind of batch those as single keyword, and then the other ones that I would basically do is I would just batch those into exact. And those are ones that we're going to basically clump together in no more than 10 keywords per campaign. And we're going to do that based on search volume. So I'll just drag this sucker down here. And so what I would generally do is I might do something here like exact one, and then I'm just going to maybe do that 10 times here. So what I've done there is just drag out these ones. It looks like we've got a total of 8 keywords in this campaign. So we would put all of these words into its own campaign. And then I'd just do the same thing, exact 2. And same deal, I'll kind of drag that down. We'll do about 10 of those. And then when you start getting into sub 500 search volume, that's where you can actually put more than 10 per campaign if you want. I'll typically go like 20, 30 on those just because they have such low search volume that usually you're still going to get enough ability to target those keywords with a dedicated budget. So we'll call this one exact 3, and we will just drag that down. So these are likely going to be the most important keywords that we're going to target here initially at launch. And if we rank effectively on these, that's really going to set up well for the destiny of this ASIN success long term, because we're basically going to be ranking on really relevant words that matter in the category that other leading ASINs are doing well on, or that alpha ASINs are doing well on, and we're going to organically gain traction, which will ultimately streamline and build up a significant portion of the sales for this particular product. So if we just add this up here, we basically have 14 campaigns that will be single keyword, and then we've got one exact batch, we've got a second exact batch, and we've got a third exact batch. So here we basically have 17 campaigns for our priority ones. So that's step 1 and one of the most critical steps for building these initial campaigns. So the next thing we're going to do is to pull up the priority 2s. These are typically going to be relevant for your product, but maybe not hyper relevant. So like in the case of these push carts, maybe it's a 3-wheeled push cart when yours has 4. So it's still something that you could potentially sway the customer on. It would be helpful to rank on it, but it may not be a perfect descriptor of your product. So for those ones, we're basically going to go back here again, and instead of just doing the 1s, we're going to do the 2s. I'll usually leave the 3s alone at this point because they're a little bit too fringe. And then I'm typically just going to batch these into an exact match campaign. So we'll go ahead and we'll copy these guys over here again. We'll do this new tab, priority 2. We'll copy that in. And then similarly, we're just going to go ahead and add the priority here, which is going to be 2 in this case, and there's not a whole lot of them. And for this one, typically, if it's less than like 20 or 30, I'll put all of these into a single campaign, and we'll let Amazon's pay-per-click algorithm, in this case, kind of find keywords that are doing well. So this one will basically have exact kind of 1. We'll just batch that as 1, and I think that's all we'll need here for this one. Yeah, so we've got 13 keywords. I would just put all those in one campaign. So I just do one campaign for those priority 2s. So next we'll go back and we're going to do the branded terms. So these are ones where it's a competitor's brand name in the actual search term. Can't include that very often in our listing due to Amazon rules, but we still may want to target those keywords, especially if we feel like we've got a really compelling offer over a branded term. Sometimes if people are typing in an explicit branded search term, they're only looking to buy that product. Like let's say that I was looking at, Adidas shoes size 10. I'm not going to buy your no-name shoe because I'm here to buy an Adidas shoe. So some of those you got to use a little bit of human intuition to figure out which branded terms you actually have a shot at. But there might be some like a Titleist push cart or a Caddy Daddy push cart where they'd heard about that brand name and they typed it into Amazon, they go to it. But if you've got a compelling price, if you've got a compelling offer, compelling features, compelling differentiation, and you show up in that masthead for that search term, oftentimes folks will actually click on those compelling offers and they'll ultimately purchase it. And you tend to get a ton of credit in terms of relevance from Amazon's eyes when you're able to convert on those branded terms where many other ASINs simply can't other than the actual branded one. So this one requires a lot of human touch. You've got to be pretty thoughtful about which ones you select. You definitely don't want to include at launch branded search terms that you have no shot in hell at actually converting on or winning a customer's eye on. But for those that do, we definitely want to kind of find those, bring those to the surface and put them into some campaigns for launch. So I'm just going to go to the priority list here, and instead of 2 in this case, we're going to go to the Bs, which is the branded ones. We're going to go ahead and sort this by search frequency rank, so we've got the highest volume on down, and same deal. We're going to go ahead and copy those suckers all the way down here, and we're going to copy those there. So I'm going to go ahead and add those 2 columns again here, and then this priority, we're just going to put a B just so we know that these ones were branded terms. And then what I'm going to want to do here again is just kind of look based on search volume and based on do I actually think I can compete with these offers or not, whether or not I want to include them in my launch campaign. Oftentimes this may involve actually copying these words and going to Amazon looking and just seeing, hey, is this something that I'm relevant for? If so, then I'd keep it. But some of these you actually might want to just delete here, not include. So I'm going to do this in a very quick fashion. Again, you may want to take 30 minutes or so and kind of massage this with your human touch, a little bit more detail. But Sun Mountain is a brand, but it's not necessarily something that somebody would not purchase from if there's a compelling offer, so I'll leave that. Caddy Tack, Big Boy, this one is Bag Boy. Push cart, let's just see here. There's nothing here that concerns me too much. So this one's super generic. This one's Caddy Tech and then Click Gear. So they could be searching for other products from them, not just the golf push cart. So those I would say are not hyper relevant. So I would go ahead and delete those suckers out of there. Let's just go through here. The same one, Caddy Tech accessories. That's pretty fringe. We don't want to necessarily confuse Amazon too much. Here's another one. Rovic, and then there's Click Your Golf. I would delete those. Vin Golf 3, I'm going to go ahead and delete. Caddymatic is just a generic term without describing the product. I'll delete that. Alphard Golf, same deal. Caddy Golf, same deal. And so that is kind of like thinning the herd, so to speak. And all I'm going to do here is basically batch these into exact campaigns. Again, about 10 to 20 keywords per tranche. So let's just kind of do this one here and drag this down till we have about 10. So there's 10. Let's go up to like 20, honestly, for these guys. We'll do about 18, and then let's just do the rest exact too. Okay, so I've got 2 more campaigns there oriented around branded terms. The final thing that we're going to do is actually chop this up and do some ASIN targeting campaigns or product targeting campaigns for our launch effort. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new tab. And for this one, all I would basically do is I would take these 10 hyper relevant terms that exist on Amazon, and you might even be able to find 20 or whatever. So you may want to expand this from your initial keyword assessment, but typically those 10 that are actually really generating the most sales and are finding success, and those are the ones that we're going to want to kind of target. And so I would basically just drop those in there. You might want to kind of change it here and paste it like that. And then typically this is just going to be its own campaign, right? So we might want to just have product targeting 1. And then literally just have one campaign targeting 10 ASINs. That's totally viable. Do that all the time. But what you might also consider is if you've got either an alpha ASIN or a really successful product that you think you're just absolutely going to destroy. So you've got just one-up differentiation. You've got such a compelling offer that you think you can absolutely just destroy their offer when a customer sees it, even though you don't have reviews yet. For those situations, you can actually take these and put them in their own single targeted campaign. So only that ASIN's being targeted. So again, similar to the single keyword campaigns, you can have a targeted, dedicated budget to those particular ASINs. Only certain circumstances though, right? So if you really think you can win, if you really think it's compelling, go ahead and put those into targeted individual product targets. Otherwise, batching them together is totally fine. These campaigns can be incredibly powerful because even if customers don't purchase your product, but if they see your ad and your product underneath that listing and they click on it, it's almost like a vampire, right? Amazon's like, well, hey, you're kind of stealing the rank benefit and all of that relevancy, and you're bringing all that over to your listing as well. So Amazon certainly can drive a significant amount of indexation and organic rank when people click and ultimately purchase on these ads. So they can be super powerful. But we keep it simple, right? Usually it's about 10 ASINs, maybe a handful of those, maybe targeted individually with campaigns. In this case, we'll just kind of batch them all into one. So if we add this up here, we've got the one product targeting campaign, we've got 2 of these branded terms, we've got a single campaign for the priority 2s, and then we've got, I think it was like 17 campaigns that are targeting those hyper relevant words. So we'll be in for just north of 20 campaigns. This is typically how I structure most of mine at launch. We'll now get into how do we actually put these into actual campaigns in the campaign loader and get off to the races with our initial launch pay-per-click campaigns.